Hi, good morning.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Deepika, we are waiting to join. Students to join? Yes. Smita will start in another 5 minutes.
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Roshni, you can remove my host access because there's a lot of notifications coming.
Roshni, just allow everybody in.
Okay, ma'am. One second.
We're just waiting for.
Yes. I think we will start. Smita, students are joining. They are with the intern companies, so they're getting permissions and then they will join us. Yes. Yes, Roshan and Roshni, we can start.
Let us break down the stereotype ever so ancient, for every one of us is uniquely magnificent. We were born in different shape and size. This diversity is nature's blessing in disguise. It is invisible at times, yet alive in every place. Your force not limited by gender or race. We were born in different shape and size, yet none of us decided our DNA and blood type. This diversity makes us beautiful. This diversity makes us beautiful, for real beauty is between our thought and soul. If we were born in different shape and size, for the world would be dull otherwise. Unknown author. A very good morning to one and all gathered here virtually. Myself, Roshan Shiva. It's a glad welcome. We School of Management bring you this morning the first event conducted by the Women Empowerment Cell for this academic year, partnering with KELP HR. where KELP HR is the pioneer in simplifying legal complexities for POSH, prevention of sexual harassment at workplace, demystifying the less understood subject of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and designing effective employee assistance program to ensure mental well-being for employees. Today, 26th of August is celebrated as Women Equity Day. When it comes to equality, the good news is we don't have to strive for equality from the scratch, where there's plenty of wisdom that we can draw upon from the women who fought for the fight before us, as well as from the men who have supported for this cause. So, moving on to the theme of the day, that is combating gender stereotypes. So now I call upon Roshni to address the gathering.
Thank you, Roshan. Hi, I'm Roshni. Women's Equality Day commemorates 26th August 1920 when oaths to women officially became part of the US Constitution. This day makes a turning point in the history of struggle for equal treatment of women and women's rights. Gender stereotyping presents a serious obstacle to the achievement of real gender equality and feeds into gender discrimination. Gender stereotypes are preconceived ideas whereby males and females are arbitrarily assigned characteristics and roles determined and limited by their gender. Now, I call upon Roshan to welcome the panelists.
It's an honor to welcome our panelist, Ms. Smita Shetty Kapoor. She is the CEO, co-founder, and subject matter expert at KELP HR. Smita is an experienced HR professional with a demonstrated history of working in information technology, manufacturing, and service industry. Ms. Smita has 25 plus years of corporate experience in employee retention, training and development, grievance redressal of complex workplace issues, including complaints of discrimination and sexual harassment, conflict resolution with organizations such as Emphasis, India Life Habit, Gujarat Ambuja Cements, and many more. Ms. Smita is an active blogger who's empaneled with over 30 organizations to help them monitor the working of internal complaint committee throughout the year. Additionally, she also works as a third party to support company investigate cases of harassment and is also known to host webinar on diverse variety of topics. In the year 2021, she hosted multiple interviews with over than 21 speakers as a part of KELP HR International Women's Day. Ms. Smita has been hosting monthly online panel discussions on POSH at workplace in association with the Indian Lawyer Association. Moreover, she has recently moderated the personal panel discussion on POSH and its implication at Kashish, Mumbai. Ms. Smita has also provided support to organization and recommends leadership programs for women empowerment to corporate at various stages. Thank you, Mom.
Thank you, Roshan. That was such an elaborate introduction. Thank you so much.
We welcome you, Smita, on behalf of the principal and the secretary of Ddgdvc. We welcome you once again.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you so much.
I'm here to introduce about Ms. Meenakshi. Ms. Meenakshi is a lawyer, researcher, and facilitator. She graduated from Damodaram Sanjaviya National Law University and pursued her master's in law and development from Azim Premji University. She has worked in the courts as a litigant in all areas and completed the Gender Lab Fellowship. She has published in the International Journal of Legal Sciences and research on euthanasia and worked with a group to publish empirical findings of reimagining prison reforms in India with the prison ministry. She is passionate about gender justice, and their research focus has been on looking at gender beyond the binary understanding and understanding the societal effort on gender. She is currently working as a POSH and DEI consultant with KELP HR, and she works on innovative solutions for making organization a safe space for everyone. Welcome, Ms. Meenakshi.
Yes, Meenakshi, we are very happy to have such a young and energetic person, as I say always. Thanks for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome.
You can get started.
Yeah. Roshan, are you connected? Yeah.
Now the stage is open for the panel members for the discussion, followed by a Q&A session. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Yeah. So should Professor, are you all going to start with any questions, or should we just get started with what we have come up with?
Yeah, you can just start a briefing, Smita and Meenakshi. Then I think they will go ahead with the Q&A session.
Sure. So let me start with breaking few myths. Okay. When we started this conversation, right? First of all of there were discussion like ma'am, sir, miss, So let me start with this, that we cannot assume that somebody is a ma'am, somebody is a sir, just because we look at them and they're dressed in a particular fashion, they look like a feminine or masculine, so we can address them that way. So because you're all college students and you're going to hit workplaces, we will have to be very, very sensitive about how do we address them. If you noticed, I very consciously addressed professor as professor, not as ma'am or sir, right? And Roshni or Roshan, I address them as their names, on their first names, with their first names. So these are some very, very sensitive things that I would want to start the conversation with. While Meenakshi is an expert in gender sexuality, Meenakshi, want to say something?
Yeah, but I think Smita has gained enough ally expertise to talk about it. And she has been constantly working around this. So when we are addressing a new person professionally, with the changing times, we have changing rules for professional conduct. So if you're referring to someone, instead of saying she or he, using a gender neutral pronoun they, till they come out to you and tell you that, hey, my pronouns are she and her, kindly use she and her for me, is considered ideal. When we are writing emails, it is ideal to not use Mrs. or Miss or any such demarcation that gives away gender per se, because gender is an umbrella of identities, and we do not know what the other person is comfortable with. And based on what we get, we cannot be very sure that the other person knows, that the other person is comfortable identifying as a man or a woman. So pronouns really matter, and right now it is a good time for you all, because you are going to professional spaces, to start using appropriate pronouns, putting up your pronouns wherever it's possible, and talking about gender in a manner that we are not restricting people into the binary of man or woman, because it is beyond that. So that's all. I guess
we can get started with our topic. So today's topic, while we are concentrating on women, because diversity comes across, as Meenakshi rightly mentioned, but today we will be concentrating as much as possible to women, because we see in workplaces, when we go to hire, from colleges, we have 50% of inflow of men and women. But as soon as we reach the mid-tier, it drops to 25%. So there is 75% of men and only 25% of women in workforce. And in the senior management, we can count them on our fingers, how many remain in workforce. So it's a very, very sad state. And that's the reason. I mean, if you look at the, I was reviewing CBSE and state board results. Women are topping the chart there, but they are not topping the chart in the CEO, in the CEO, number of CEOs, or in the boardrooms. They are very minuscule. So what happens to us? What happens to women who drop out? So this is something very hard hitting, and that's why we should be concentrating on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, what is diversity? Diversity is getting different kinds of people at workplaces. So it is men, women, gender-based, and the third gender also. So we have to start thinking, how do we have even people from third gender part of the organization? Of course, there are many gender identities. I've just clubbed them for the sake of ease as third gender, right? different kinds of people from race, from religion, from caste, from community, how they look, physical experience, physical anatomy, how they look, how they behave, how they speak. So all different kinds of people is called diversity. Okay. What is inclusion? Inclusion is ensuring that we create a workplace where all of them can function. Okay. And what is equity? Equity is giving equal opportunities to all of them. Right? Now, if I have to give you an example of what is diversity, equity, inclusion in very simpler forms, because y'all I'm assuming most of y'all are from Generation Z. So if you have a party today, right, and you invite all kinds of people for your party, it could be somebody who's your good friend, somebody who's not at all your good friend, a professor, a very senior professor. So all kinds of people you are inviting for the party. That is diversity, right? And now the second step, what is inclusion? Inclusion is that you go and invite everybody to come and dance in the party. You're including everybody. You're not letting go of anybody. You're paying equal attention to everybody to come and dance in your party. That is inclusion. And what is equity? Equity is that you're ensuring you play a music which makes everybody dance at your party, right? So am I able to explain this to you in simpler words, that what is diversity, equity, inclusion? Okay, and if you all have any questions, maybe you can ask at the end of it, right? So there are various pillars of these diversity, equity, inclusion. Of course, gender is something that we will be concentrating. And coming back to women, women drop out, and there are many reasons why they drop out. One of the most important reasons is prevention of sexual harassment. Sexual harassment at workplaces. This is one very important reasons why women drop out. And what is sexual harassment? I know you are going from college, and there are many behaviors in college which is ignored, which is okay, which is like, not paid too much attention to, but becomes complete no-no at workplaces. While it should be not ignored in college level also, but becomes completely no-no at workplaces, because now we have a law in our country which was formulated in 2013, the Prevention of Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace, Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act. Now this act came after a lot of struggle from all the places possible. It started from Bhavri Devi. Bhavri Devi was a social worker in Rajasthan who was gang raped. Unfortunately, there was no law which could protect her back then. The conversation started then. It got a push because of Nirbhaya event that happened in 2012. And finally, in 2013, we got this act, right? Now, what does act say? This act says that every organization which has 10 or more employees should have internal complaints committee. So as employees, when you join any new organization, please validate if your organization has an internal complaints committee. It becomes your right and responsibility. This message is not only for women, but also for men in the team or the other gender. It becomes your right and responsibility to find out if your organizations have internal complaints committee. And if it is not there, you should ask your HR teams that why it is not there and if they need any help to get this done. So any form of, now what is sexual harassment? Is somebody touching you inappropriately only that a sexual harassment? No, that's not the only sexual harassment. If somebody is verbally saying something which is inappropriate, which has sexual connotation, is also sexual harassment. If somebody is doing something which is non-verbal, maybe some gesture, some, staring at somebody, is also considered as sexual harassment. So if I have to give you a definition in plain and simple words, sexual harassment is any behavior that is sexual in nature, that is unwelcome, and impact of the behavior is what matters and not the intent. So all these things, so the three magic rules is any behavior which is unwelcome, any behavior which has sexual connotation, and any behavior where you are impacted but may not be intentional is sexual harassment. So as employees of organization. You could be entrepreneurs. I don't want to assume that all of y'all will join workplace, but maybe you'll start your own setup. So please be mindful that this is something which is law of the land and cannot be ignored. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people who have lost job opportunities because they got stuck in such behaviors. It's a complete nonsense behavior and should not be carried forward. So with that, I take a pause. Meenakshi, you want to add anything here?
Not on Posh. I think you have covered it.
Sure.
So
Sure.
just wait for a question so we can move on to any other segment.
Sure. I just wanted to reiterate what is a truly diverse place. So why I spoke about POSH, because prevention of sexual harassment, is because this crushes the dignity of the person. All right. And that's something which a person cannot survive. So it is very, very important that a diverse workplace is a place where everybody is respected. So respect is the key in workplace, and a lot of organizations are striving for it, right? A culture is where every employee gets equal access to growth opportunity. That is a truly diverse workplace. An inclusive workplace is where people with all different kinds of gender, age group, backgrounds, disabilities feel welcome and they feel valued for their contributions. A place where a person can bring their true, authentic self. They don't have to hide behind a mask, but they can be as authentic as they are, and a place where they feel safe. Now, this is a truly diverse workplace. And how will it happen? Only employers make this workplace diverse? No. Each one of us contribute to it. Though they will have values, they will function in a particular way, but you yourself have to carry your values to that particular organization. So it's a good challenge for you to look at the mirror and say, am I going to participate in an organization and help that organization to be truly diverse? Yeah. Meenakshi, please let me know whenever you want to share anything. Okay. So,
yes, it really is important to, I guess, maintain that. I think it's also, not always intentional in the kind of cases we come across. It is not always intention that matters. And that's a very important point that Smita touched upon. So sometimes you might not actually mean to harass somebody, but you are constantly texting them at 1 a.m. in the night that, are you done with your work? Or asking someone unintentionally that let's go for a walk and discuss this over chai, So before saying anything like this to your colleague or or the person you are supervising or your employee, it is very important to keep the repercussions of it in the mind. Is the other person in a position to decline your offer? Because if you are the boss, they might just go with the flow even if they are not comfortable with it. And hence, it is very important to look at the impact it's creating, the repercussions that are coming out of your actions. And even if you do not, you might say, I did not mean to sexually harass this person. But if they feel harassed, it is a valid argument. So being mindful and also checking in with the other person if they are okay at all times is something that really would help navigating a workplace in future for everyone. Should we move on to another segment, Smita?
sure.
Are there any questions?
Sure.
Okay, I'll just assume that.
So we will start with something that I had in my mind is about the numbers. What do numbers say? So the numbers say that organizations which are more inclusive have very positive experiences. So I'm working with around 700 plus organizations from last few years, right? And they have constantly strived to become diverse, inclusive, and they are 3 times more happier workplaces. So if you are diverse, right, if you have different kinds of people, if you have representation from all kinds of people, they are 3 times more happier workplaces, right? So employees would want to join such happy place and not go to a very gloomy workplaces, right? 1.8 times you would find a good friend in your workplace if your organization is inclusive. 2.2 times you will have a positive work-life balance if your organization is an inclusive workplace. These are very important numbers for all of us to know, because people will think, why are we even thinking about it? We get paid salaries, we go on day-to-day basis, work there and come and get out, then we'll enjoy our life. No, you spend 8 to 9 hours per day, 1/3 of your life at workplaces. So that has to be a happy workplace. So even organizations are striving to create that, but you as an employee or as an entrepreneur, whatever you're going to be in few years, you also have to keep this as the first thing in your organization about creating a positive work culture. Okay, it's not only people sitting on the top's responsibility. I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself, but it is also your responsibility. And why do you think what happens to negative workplaces or places which are absolutely not inclusive? 3.3 times more likely to have non-supportive managers. Okay, 2.6 times more likely to have to make them feel unsafe because of the small mistakes that they have made. Right, 1.3 times it is more stressful. They have 1.3 times more stress in the work relationship, and 1.6 times they are likely for their job to be negatively impacted, and hence impacting their physical and mental health. Right, mental health is another very big concern which is arising out of non-inclusive workplaces. So are we striving towards this is something very, very important.
That was so clearly explained, Smita.
Thank you, dear.
Moving on, I think I would like to cover the segment on laws that exist for women, for protection of women. And we should start with our Indian Bible, that is the Constitution of India. And in the Constitution, we have equality, and we are protected against any kind of discrimination in the fundamental rights section, where Article 14, 15 ensure equality for everyone, and irrespective of gender, race, or any kind of caste inequalities. So Constitution safeguards our rights and protects us against any kind of discrimination. In case a discrimination does occur, we have a lot of other laws, like the Indian Penal Code, which is our criminal criminal code. It prescribes Section 354, Section 357, 375 for protection against any kind of sexual offenses. And there is also there are also guidelines that safeguard us against a lot of interpretations of how sexual harassment might occur. If the law is not clear on it, we should go to the guidelines and look at the guidelines that have been laid down by the Supreme Court in various case laws. So that being said, we have Domestic Violence Act separately, Maternity Benefits Act separately, which ensures that women are treated with equity and equality overall. And it is very important that workplaces are mindful of all these laws, all the safeguards and provisions that are provided for women, and they ensure a safe workplace for women. If you do not have a, say, posh compliance, if you do not have maternity benefits, then nobody would want to come and work for you, even if you are an entrepreneur. And if you are working in a company, you would look at these things, that do they have all these while taking a job offer. Everybody keep this in mind, that you have to look at a posh act, you have to see what kind of maternity benefits do they have any anti-discrimination, anti-harassment policies in the workplace, what is the kind of culture that they are developing within the workspace. and then take an informed decision on whether we want to work with this kind of a company or not. And if they are openly inclusive, if the leaders are also being openly inclusive, we need to understand how and what is playing out in this kind of a scenario.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry
for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Meenakshi mentioned about constitutional rights, which is very, very important. Now, we were speaking about why it is important for all of us to know. As women, we have to definitely know. And as other genders, including men, they also have to know, because you have to work in workplace together, right? You cannot know a set of laws which other persons could be impacted with, right? So you have to ensure that. Another very important question a lot of people ask me, that why do you think women drop out? Okay, 50%, you said 50% of inflow. What happens to women between 50% to 25% mid-tier? Some magic happens, somebody does something that they just vanish out of workplaces. Clearly, women have another full-time job at home. It's a full-time job. You cannot expect your partner to be doing 2 full-time jobs, one at workplace and one at home. And you Gen Zs, you have to change this, face the game. We as men should pledge that we'll be equal partners throughout. You have to take responsibility 50%. Otherwise, you cannot expect equal workplace, equal people at your. So you want equal representation at workplace. You would want women to come to workplace, but back home you are not supporting your partner, which is not acceptable. So start taking up your responsibilities. And can women have it all? No. Another issue that we as women have is we want to be perfect in many things. Now, a particular presentation I have to do, I have to have it. The color should be perfect. The grammatical mistake should not be there. Everything should be aligned to the T. Everything should be perfect. That is one thing, that a very clear and strong message I want to give all of y'all is that it cannot happen. Now, studies have shown that if there is a position of CEO in a particular organization, and that there are 10 people in the room, 5 are men and 5 are women, and if they get asked that who will take up the CEO position, all 5 men raise their hand. Very sheepishly, one woman would raise her hand. Other 4 would not. The thought process is that I have never played a CEO's role, so I cannot take it. I am not confident of it. And do you know what men think? Men think, what the hell, I'll get there and learn. What's a big deal about it? This is how our mind works. We will have to take charge of our own careers. So as women, are we doing that? Are we saying, no, this is something that will be put in back burner? I want a 9-to-5 job. I will do that and I'll be happy with it. So Gen Z's men, if you're listening to me, you will have to start being an equal partner at home and at workplaces. And women, you have to let go of some things. You cannot have it all, right? And please understand, our biological clock also does not work at the same fashion, okay? What happens is when you are at the peak of your career, that is 27, 28-year-old, that's when you are having babies. So it is a complete conflict. So how do you ensure that you manage that balance is a good challenge. Take help. Call out for everybody who can give you help. My strong recommendation to many women is that live in a joint family. A lot of women push me back because they don't like this idea. But I feel that take help from everybody whom you can get. All your extended family, neighbors. I have gone ahead and taken help from my children's friends' mothers also. So go ahead and do that. Do not be ashamed that I'm taking help from anybody. And give help also. Doesn't mean you only take help. Also lend a helping hand. So it works beautifully. Okay. So, you want to add anything or we could move forward?
I just wanted to add one small bit of emotional labor to this. It is also important that who is doing the emotional labor and who is doing the domestic work. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be married to contribute to the to women and take up equal work. You have to also help your mother out. If she is working, you have to take up that work and help her out in the kitchen, and also encourage other men, because it is sometimes when women say it, it falls to deaf ears, if I may use the word. But when men say it, the impact really gets through. So if being a person in a household, you see any kind of unequal distribution of work, address it, talk about it, and make sure that the distribution is equal. Even if your mother is a housewife, or wife is a housewife, or a homemaker, as we would like to address the person as now. So if the person is a homemaker, doesn't mean they have to do everything in the house by themselves. You have to still help them, because it is a very very difficult job to handle an entire household. I'm sure there is this movie, The Great Indian Kitchen. Everyone must have watched, or if not, then go ahead and watch it. It is a good movie to get an understanding of domestic work and emotional labor that requires to get to that domestic work. Uh, that being said, I guess Smita has covered everything that was required.
Meenakshi, I think we should also talk about toxic masculinity.
Yes, yes, I'm getting there. So I would also like to address toxic masculinity. What is toxic masculinity? Any kind of behavior that has been dictated by patriarchy, that masculinity is supposed to look like this, results in any kind of repercussions around it, is toxic masculinity. We have all been taught different kinds of masculinity. We have all been taught different kinds of toxic patterns that we develop because we have been dictated that this is considered strong, this is considered as powerful, you know. And I'm not saying only men develop toxic masculinity. Honestly, I was toxic masculine because I was really trying to be a man for most of my life, and I did not realize I've become a bully in the process. You know, to address that there is toxic masculinity in the world out there that can affect men and women equally, and to control those microaggressions that come within us, to work on it through therapy and other mediums, that how do we challenge this conditioning of toxic masculinity which has been dictated as powerful. You know, crying, for example, is always made fun of and called feminine, but crying is actually a very strong thing to do, a very powerful thing to do, to be vulnerable. It is, there is power in vulnerability, there is power in showing yourself to the world. And there is a lot of issues that come because we keep suppressing our emotions, and we keep putting up this strong front which is going to affect everybody around us, because we are not ourselves most of the time. And to cover something else, we take up these masculine patterns, you know, which really affect the people around us. We can be very very toxic in that masculine patterns. We can make fun of women, we'll make fun of everyone who looks weak, and think that we're being very strong while doing this. We're bullying everybody around us, but we don't realize that this is toxic masculinity, and it is affecting everybody around us, because it's 2022 and nobody wants a person who is still stuck in gender roles, you know. Like, we all leave those jobs which have those horrible bosses, if I were to mention. And just because we are women, or just because we are not men, doesn't mean that this kind of behavior is acceptable. And while we were in posh, also in sexual harassment, a lot of women also think that it's okay to sexually harass others. So because of the kind of toxic masculine patterns that they have developed, they think that they are invincible, you know. So these kind of patterns are something that we need to let go. We cannot, we also have to be mindful of everybody around us and our own mental health. And at this age, a focus of mental health, if it starts, I wish I had done it sooner. I wish I had taken care of my mental health at an earlier age, because it really takes a toll on you as you grow up, with these kind of patterns that exist in our which are dictated through our families, from our fathers, brothers, or even society, right? So working on toxic masculinity is very, very important. Smita, have I missed anything in toxic masculinity?
No, I think perfect. Just adding to this, I know we are giving movie references, but there's another movie called Darlings which came by. Okay, Alia Bhatt's movie. My strong recommendation to watch it. It speaks about domestic violence and abuse, and that's exactly what Meenakshi was trying to say. Toxic masculinity. How how gaslighting. Meenakshi spoke about gaslighting. How they make them feel very the condescending behavior, constantly putting them down, constantly telling them how they are worthless, constantly making them feel that they are dependent on them, and nothing will. Their life will go down the drain if they step out of this relationship. So very, very important for all of us, men, women, even men face it. Okay, I've known of relationship which is toxic where women are domestic abuse. Being the domestic abusers, maybe not physically, because physically we are women are weaker, but mentally, emotionally this happens. So please be watchful of such behaviors, not only at workplaces, because you can get those workplace bullies, okay, also at your homes and surroundings. If it is there, I think it needs to be called out, and we have to work towards equity. One very beautiful picture, I don't know, Professor, if you've already got it, because we use equality and equity in as synonyms. So we should know what is the difference between equity and equality. Professor, have you got it? Yeah, have you got the picture?
Yes, ma'am. Roshni, can you share the picture?
I just want everybody to see that picture, because that explains the difference between equality and equity.
Yes, ma'am. We received it, ma'am.
Great. I don't have to say it in any words, it's there. Yeah. While reality and justice you can read later, but I would want you all to pay attention to equality and equity. Many a times we say equal workplaces, but actually we have to strive towards equity. What is equitable workplace? Equality is that you're giving same kind of resources for all kinds of people. If you look at this, they're trying to see a match which is beyond a fence. Okay, there is one adult man, there is one kid, and there is a toddler. And they are all given one box to stand. That is equality. You have 3 boxes, you give it to them and say, fend for yourself. But at workplaces, what we need is equity, or across, wherever. We need equity. We look at them and we give them resources as per their needs. What can help ensure that all of them get to watch the match, right? So this is what I really want you all to pay attention to. I hope this is clear. Roshni, you can stop sharing.
Yes. Thank you for that, Smita. It was, I think, a nice way to convey equity and equality. And if you Google equity and equality, that will also help you, because this generation is we are very connected to Google from our hearts. I Google everything. So I think Google equity and equality, and there will be in-depth understanding of what is the difference and how do we understand equity and equality even in Indian sense. And since we are talking about equity, I would also like to bring us to another segment, that is different segments of DEI that exist. What is DEI? Like Smita just explained, DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion. So within DEI, there are a lot of minorities who are finding a place at workplaces to exist as themselves, as who they are, and not hide and mask into some kind of acceptable identity. So it comes through for women, including if you all are going to be entrepreneurs tomorrow, DEI is very, very important for you to start a company with an inclusive mindset. And what is inclusion? It does not stop at just women. It stops when you feel like every person in your organization feels like they can just be themselves, and you have that kind of diversity that talks for itself. So there is SOGIESC identities, sexual orientation, gender identity, sex characteristics. So if we to start with, that is something that you can understand as identities that exist within the sexual orientation umbrella, within the gender umbrella. When there is a difference between gender and sex, this is a very basic difference, that people who are born as male or female, that is sex, or like intersex, male, female, intersex, what organs you're born with, and all those things. Biological sex, what have you been given as society saw you when you were born. But gender identity is something beyond sex, something that allows you to identify as who you are. What do you feel comfortable as? Today, I want to identify as a non binary person. So, that is something that is a gender identity. Though I was assigned female at birth, if I identify as a non binary person, that means that I am someone who doesn't identify as either masculine or feminine. I am someone who is non binary. And there are a lot of people you'll come across who will have pronouns they, them, or something else, ze, them. Like these days, there are a lot of pronouns, and it's important to keep yourself updated and educated around these things. So, gender identity is what you express as, what you feel like. So, gender is fluid. You can identify as a woman today, as a man tomorrow, and nobody has the right to stop you or tell you that you are not a man or you are not a woman. Okay. So, it is who you feel like and what you identify as, what you are expressing yourself as. So gender identity is very, very important to see that everybody within the umbrella of non-cishet men, cis person is someone who is assigned male at birth and is comfortable as male or female, or whatever gender they're assigned with, and heterosexual person. So as a male heterosexual person, sometimes everybody who comes under the umbrella of not being a heterosexual cis man face harassment in public or in workplaces or within their homes. So to see to how do you bring everybody together, and how do you create that kind of equity? And there are various other segments in diversity, equity, inclusion. So there is caste inclusion, there is community inclusion, there is regional inclusion. So there are so many types of diversities that we need to be mindful of and create that equal playing ground for everybody to come. And that equal playing ground is created through equity. Smita would I think Smita would be also good to elaborate more on the different segments of DEI that exist, if I've missed out.
Yeah, no, I think she has covered most of it and all of it. Another important one that I don't know if Meenakshi missed it is generational gap.
Generation.
Gen Zs. I don't know if you all are aware. You might go to a workplace which will have Generation X, right? Baby boomers are out. So I'm Generation X, right? So you have to face me. So our thought processes could be completely different, right? So how you have to be respectful of their thought processes without being too imposing of your thought process. So how do we marry these two will be very interesting for you to find out. And you don't have to be like insistent, you'll have an impression. So Gen X's are already carrying impression that Gen Z's come to the workplace and they disrupt everything, right? So you will also have to be mindful how you get, embedded in that workplace ecosystem, right? So Please be nimble, please be mindful. Also be mindful of your own unconscious biases, right? What is unconscious biases? If you all had not heard about it earlier, we all have our unconscious biases. Conscious biases, I this is this and that is that, which you know, right? We are all biased. But what is important is to know that we are also by default unconsciously biased 100%. We have our thought processes. We see somebody and we make immediate judgment about that person. So I'm not saying you have to be unconscious bias free. You cannot be. But be mindful of your actions after you become biased. Be mindful that you're getting biased. This is something that will need a lot of work. I cannot train you over one conversation. Start reading about it. What is unconscious bias and how my decisions get impacted? So what is unconscious bias? Is basically shortcut decisions or thought processes that we make to come to a particular decision. For example, we see a lion in front of us. Our immediate reaction is run away from there, right? If we see somebody bullying, our immediate reaction is to fight that person. So flight or fight, that comes to us very naturally from the caveman days, right? Caveman, cave woman, cave person days. So that comes very naturally to us. How do we react? Now we see somebody very meek, right? Is not able to talk properly. We have made an impression about that person. Okay, I don't like that person because that person doesn't, I don't like that person. Now, many a times you don't even know the reason why you don't like that person, right? So, you say gut feeling, that is unconscious bias. So start tapping yourself if you come across something, maybe you're making a very wrong decision, and start processing your thought flow. I think, Meenakshi, we should stop here and open up for questions and answers.
Yes.
Yes, Roshan, we can start with the Q&A session.
So the stage is now open for Q&A. So I request students to clarify their doubts.
Please tell us if there is anything. Yeah, there is a hand there.
Yes, ma'am. Very good morning to you, ma'am.
Good morning.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Nitishri, ma'am, and I have one question, ma'am. Like, do people really leave their job only because of this DEI?
No.
Is the only reason?
Nitya, there are many reasons. It could be they do not like the job, what they're doing, right? They do not like the boss. But DEI falls one of the most important reasons here. If you have great brand, great culture, great work environment, people also combat their other issues and want to stay with that organization. That's people leave for more salaries, better opportunities, jobs outside of India, many other reasons. But this is also one of the most important reasons.
Yes, okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
You want to add something, please?
Ma'am, I do have a question.
Yes,
so
sir.
there's one serious issue which is being in the corporate world, that something called as groupism, where like people in the workplace create groups and stay within their comfort zone, where other people, individuals, being left alone, and they don't have a proper mindfulness to get along with the other members. So what is your opinion on this groupism, and what do you tell for individuals to just come over it?
Yeah. So fortunately in workplaces, there are forums created where if they feel bullied or such groupism is impacting them, they can report it to. Okay. But unfortunately, they are also threatened themselves not to report because they will get further bullied. Right. But I think there's a point where you have to start reporting, because that way the culture of that, groupism breaks down. It is prevalent, it will be prevalent, but I think constant efforts should be made by the person who's impacted, or there are a lot of bystanders around. who see that one particular person is getting impacted because of it, even they should speak up. Not only victims, but there is, so that's why the culture conversations are happening across organization, and organization are actually going down to every employee to ask for feedback. There are a lot of surveys happening in the organization to raise their anonymous surveys happening. You can name people who are, mistreating you. So there are a lot of forums where you can raise your voice. After doing all that, also, if you're not raising voice, then that's the concern that organizations are having, because they don't get to know that you're impacted. They are really doing their best to come to the grassroots level. Yeah, if you have to, please add.
Yeah, there is also something very important that came up recently. That was the boys' locker room incident, if everybody knows. And that kind of incident, if you have not come across, it was there are these groups that were made of boys who are like sharing pictures of women, etc. So if you see, this boys' locker room has translated into workplaces and even other spaces as boys groups or bro culture, or there are many names that we see in which this is formed. So even that needs to be checked and to be aware if any boys groups are forming in that kind of manner. And if you are a bystander or if you are invited to one of those groups, it is important to bring to the management's attention that there is this kind of groupism that is forming. There is this bro culture that is not including women. To bring all this to the attention of the management and also bringing about that kind of change is something that's very important. So it is just an addition to what Smita said. And I think about groupism, the thing is that, we all think that some people are cooler than the others. And to know that nobody is cool, and to know that everyone has something to offer, even if they don't speak your language, they don't wear your clothes. If you diversify your friend group, your ideas will emerge. You will have more and more understandings from different perspectives. If you do not diversify your friend groups, if you have only, say, if I identify as a woman, I have only 5 women in my friend group who are all from the same caste, I will literally have zero understanding of anything that is beyond our caste understanding or what I have understood from society, right? So it is always good to diversify your friend groups, and since this also translates into work culture, that talk to that one person that you would never talk to otherwise, because you are working together, and you will be surprised at how many interesting ideas will come out of that person who you would have never talked to otherwise, because they have a very different thought process, and it's always a lesson to be learned from them.
So nicely said, Meenakshi, and that's a great lesson for all of you. I think because you all are hitting workplaces, that is one thing you all should have your antennas on, that talk to that person whom you otherwise wouldn't have connected with.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Are there any more questions? I think we can take one more question.
Yes, ma'am. I have one question. Like, in your opinion, what is most challenging aspect of working in a diverse environment, ma'am?
I think a lot of learning.
Yeah. Lot of learnings, and you will come across new mistakes that you make every day.
Exactly.
Like experience.
Too much of learning and too much of new ways of doing things that you might lose structure. People who are very organized sometimes lose structure when they are in quite a diverse workplace. But I think that's what human beings are, right? And that is the name of the game. It will be different. Maybe you can put a structure to a very diverse workplace also. So there are too many learnings, too many thought processes, too many ideas, too many things to take care of, right? So I think the challenge is that.
Yeah, you have to be constantly mindful of your surroundings. But I also feel like the experience of working in a diverse team is wonderful. It gives us like that sense of belonging in the world, because we are dynamic. Every time we are in that kind of a group, you're learning something new from your peers, and you're getting so many ideas and understandings, and also you feel like you can be yourself completely at workplace, and nobody is going to question you, because this is such a diverse space that everybody is okay with everyone. And even generational learnings, we think that so when I join a workplace, I'm like, I tend to be away from very old people, because I know that they're going to judge me on something. But it really helps to talk to them, because their experience and learning will really help you see things and do things more efficiently and effectively, right? It's just a generational diversity I talked about, but there are different diversities and different learnings from each.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Roshan, do you have any other questions, or shall we proceed for the vote of thanks?
Ma'am, last question.
Yeah.
Do you think women are invisible? Are they misusing women empowerment?
Say that again. Women are misusing women empowerment.
Yeah.
1% of people misuse, Roshni. That's the statistics. And for that, you cannot blame 99% of genuine people. There will be misuse. Anything, anywhere you look at, there will be misuse of anything, right? But what happens, what gets highlighted is that 1% blows out of proportion, say, okay, everybody is misusing. And that's not the truth, right? Okay. So definitely there will be a misuse, but look at the percentage of things getting misused.
Okay.
So thank you, ma'am. It was an insightful insight knowing about various things which is currently happening, and as budding, we hit the cotton, especially the inclusion. So now I call upon Roshni to deliver the vote of thanks.
Gratitude makes sense of your past, brings peace for today, and creates vision for tomorrow. It's written by Melody Beate. On behalf of Ddgdvc VAISHNAV School of Management, I, Roshni B, second year MBA, to take this opportunity to place on record hearty thanks to Ms. Smita Shetty Kapoor, Ms. Meenakshi, and Ms. Deepa for sparing your precious time to grace the occasion. Today, we had an opportunity to hear your thoughts, and this will surely be going to encourage women as well as men to break the stereotype. I also extend my thanks to our respected Secretary, Sri Ashok Kumar Mundraji, our Honorable Principal Captain Dr. S. Santosh Babu, and a special thanks to our Director Ma'am Dr. U. Amleshwari, being the catalyst that inspired us to do our best and stand as pillar of power. I am happy to thank our faculty members for untiring efforts and support. Finally, thank you everyone for your cooperation and patience. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having
Thank you so much, Smita and Ms. Meenakshi. And Deepa was actually, she was coordinating with me for a while, and thank you all for that. And the session was so informative, and students would, it was really a thought-provoking session, and the impact on this topic is pretty high, and it's good time that they are also knowing about what's actually happening in the corporate side also with regarding to the, the gender equality or whatever be this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ma'am, I request all of you to turn on your cameras for a group pic. I request all of you to turn on your cameras for the group pic. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Roshan. Thank you, Roshan.
Thank you, Roshan. Thank you, team.
Thank you.